Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Where is she? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. When did we last see this one's wife? Well, there was the return from the faux royal tour to Nigeria, and they were photographed walking to their vehicle, this one's wife striding ahead of Hank, who was relegated to the role of bag carrier. There was also the grainy photograph that appeared where they went for their romantic anniversary dinner for four, which I think was on the 20th of May. So here we are, a number of weeks later, and that was the last time that we had seen this one's wife out and about, which is rather unusual for her, as ordinarily we're treated to perhaps some filmed footage or pap shots of her. During this time, of course, she hasn't exactly disappeared. She is, after all, that unflushable turd. We've had the comments of the Nigerian First Lady, which necessitated a response from this one's wife, which she did with an attack against the Sidley twins via AFP. There, she sought not only to nullify the threat to control posed by the comments of the Nigerian First Lady, with a rather disingenuous attempt to suggest that we'd not heard what we'd all heard, thus gaslighting, but then to scapegoat the Sidley twins as a consequence of the fact that they had hitherto exposed the shenanigans of Mies and Harriman, and thus this one's wife had trained her guns on the two. See parts passing for further explanations about that. But we didn't see this one's wife. We had the supposed Lilibet big birthday bash, although there were no photographs, and guests were said to have attended, albeit it has been demonstrated that Katy Perry couldn't have possibly attended. There have continued the usual PR puff pieces, courtesy of Tatler, of Town and Country, People, and of course, Hello. These, however, have had tendency to reference historic matters. They picked up on Lilibet's birthday, of course, but there wasn't really much to report other than the fact that she apparently had a party. They've referenced footage from the docu-series, which is some 18 months ago. There has also been reference to Harry needing a break as a part of the supposed management of this one's wife's facade by her being supposedly concerned about Harry. There has naturally been continued press commentary, irrespective of what this one's wife might have been pumping out, vis-a-vis the non-invitation to the Grosvenor wedding, the fact of friends no longer wanting to visit Harry because of this one's wife, and that Harry is apparently looking for a home in the United Kingdom. So the newspapers and their associated online presence have continued, usually utilising some royal expert with observations about what might be going on, what might happen next. But we have not had any appearances from the Duchess of Delusion. We haven't had any foreshadowing of coming events. Thus, why is she so quiet? Ordinarily, as a narcissist, and one that's infamous, she repeatedly needs to be in the public eye, to assert control over the viewing and reading public, and to draw fuel from them by way of their responses, to look at this as an opportunity to monetize that infamy also. Yet there's a period of quiet. Why might that be? Well, the first reason for this period of quiet is she's recently taken something of a kicking. There was plenty of criticism about the Nigerian tour, and since then, there was the First Lady's comments, which were problematic for her. There's been Gwyneth Paltrow's triple trolling of this one's wife, with the dinner party, the Katy Perry walk, and more recently, with some more trolling in relation to her appearing with the New Zealand chef. Harry's court case and the fact that he's appealing against it has caused a number of taxpayers to decry that activity. American Riviera Orchard continues to be ridiculed because it's going nowhere. The 40 jam recipients remain unknown and silent. And therefore, recently, this one's wife has taken a bit of a shoeing alongside the usual fact that she's unpopular. Therefore, as a consequence of these repeated threats to control, what she has done is she's stayed in a position of withdrawal to nullify those threats. She hasn't made appearances to say, "Look at me," but rather she has stayed out of the way. She has, apparently, been making some rather frenzied appearances as a guest speaker on the New York Post's below-the-line comment section. But that's not a formal appearance, if you will. It's not one as the Duchess of Sussex. And therefore, her lack of appearances in the last few weeks is, in part at least, driven by her need to regain control by staying in a position of withdrawal. But whilst she's in that position of withdrawal, what's she actually doing? It's not like she's gone into a cryogenic chamber for 4 weeks and then will emerge. It's not like that she's fallen into a deep slumber, expecting a prince to come and wake her up after 4 weeks of sleeping away whatever it is. She must be doing something. Is she busy building American Riviera Orchard, stung into activity as a consequence of the repeated criticism? Perhaps she's chasing up the 40 non-responders concerning the jam scam. Maybe she's getting to work on her memoir, feverishly hammering away at a keyboard as she metes out her own peculiar brand of justice towards those that have offended her. Maybe she's cooking up a storm on the telephone, ringing various African countries to ask who's next for a faux royal tour and how much are you going to pay. Perhaps she's actually in the kitchen making jam and more jam. Or maybe she's undertaken some more cosmetic surgery and is recovering from that. The short answer is we don't know what she's doing, but it's likely, given the fact that she's a narcissist, she'll be spending a lot of her time complaining about the way that she's been treated, moaning to Harry, moaning to anybody else who will listen as part of that indirect assertion of control. She'll be monitoring what the royals are up to. She can't help herself in that regard because they are the enemy. She will be poring over social media as she often does. That's quite easy for her to do. She can sit, sipping a Bloody Mary, while she scrolls, finding out what's being said about her. There may be instances of her throwing herself to the floor and sobbing. And undoubtedly Harry will be getting it in the neck repeatedly because he's in the sustained devaluation. But overall, the reason we've not seen much of her, or anything of her in fact, is because she's in effect licking her wounds after the kicking that she's taken as of late. Unfortunately, it won't last. After a while, she asserts control again in relation to those threats to control. Fuel levels increase. She's not starved of fuel. She'll be getting it from Harry, from her mother, from the few friends that she has that are on the payroll, etc. Tertiary sources that still continue to support her. Tertiary sources that are criticising her. So she'll still be pretty well fueled. But she's withdrawn in order to nullify the threat to control posed by recent difficulties. And in the meantime, well, it's anybody's guess as to what she's been doing, but one doesn't imagine that it'll be wholly productive because of her laziness, and it's more likely the scrutiny of what's being said about her for the purposes of trying to maintain control and drawing fuel. She will reappear. How soon remains to be seen. One can't necessarily predict that. And undoubtedly she will make some appearance in order to once again demonstrate to the world that she's amazing and brilliant. But she's running out of options. The repeated failures, the fact that fewer and fewer people want anything to do with her, make it harder and harder for her to make those public appearances and to make them count. What do you think she's been doing in these last few weeks while she's been away asserting control through withdrawal? What do you think she's been doing while she's been licking her wounds? Let me know in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.